Hi, welcome to Artificial Intelligence Engineering Lecture. This is part one of a series of artificial intelligence engineering that we have at Carnegie Mellon University. My name is John Wu. I am a director of the master program in technology innovation and artificial intelligence. I'm also a distinguished professor in computer science. This is a part one of the lecture series. Let's start with artificial intelligence. Probably many of you have heard about artificial intelligence. Some of you may work in artificial intelligence. Some of you may work in some related field. But there are a lot of noise and a lot of issue that I want to address in this first lecture. First, let's look at some interesting quote about artificial intelligence or AI. For example, artificial intelligence is like teenager sex. Everyone talk about it. Nobody know how to do it, but everybody thinks everyone else is doing it. The same thing is true. There's a lot of noise, there's a lot of talk about artificial intelligence. You can see that in multimedia, you can see in Facebook, you can see in Twitter, you can see in all kinds of magazines. But with 45 years of experience in the industry, I can say that there are very few people who can do artificial intelligence correctly with significant result. I have been working on this field for many years. I'm also the chief engineer of Boeing. And I'm also responsible for the Boeing 777. We've been collecting data, analyze data, and use data for a long time. Another interesting quote that we see in the magazine is, you cannot tell if the machine is getting smarter or you are lowering your standard of intelligence to such a degree that the machine seems much more smarter. There's a lot of fear about artificial intelligence. People was afraid that someday the machine will get much smarter and can destroy humanity. I guess that many of you have seen the movie called The Terminator, something like that, and you worry about the doomsdays coming ahead. Rest assured, I don't think it will happen. There's another issue about artificial intelligence, is the development of artificial intelligence would spell the doom for human race. For example, a smart medical robot to treat cancer can come up with a conclusion that the best way to eliminate cancer is to kill people who are genetically prone to the disease. Yes, those are the hypotheses. But I want you to look into artificial intelligence is a technique or a tool that we can use if we can use it smarter and better. So in my point of view, I don't think AI is something we should be afraid of. I think we have to look at AI as a tool. We have been using computer. We have been using many things. If you look back in history, when computer was invented, many people are already afraid of that. Today, almost everybody have a computer in their pocket, and they have been using it. Yes, there's a lot of notion about artificial intelligence and robotic will take away the job of the people. There will be some job being destroyed, gone away, but there's a lot of new jobs being created. So if you study artificial intelligence, if you study computer, rest assured, you don't have to worry about that. But you have to put in your thinking brain about how smart you can be to beat these machines. So let's start with some fundamental question. What is artificial intelligence? Artificial intelligence is a branch of computer science that focus on building a machine or computer that can simulate human intelligent behavior. Whatever people can do, maybe that machine can also do. And maybe they can do it better. Most of the artificial intelligence system can perform the tasks traditionally associated with human intelligence, such as visual perception, speech recognition, decision making, and translation language, and of course many more. Some computer with smart algorithm and software can perform certain things that people can do. They can plan, they can learn, they can reasoning, they can solve some problem, they can represent some knowledge, they can perceive certain things, they can identify motion, they can manipulate certain things to larger extent or lesser extent, and they seem to be smarter. However, we have something that the machine can never replace. We have certain things we call emotion. We have certain things we call ethic. We have certain things we call morale. And I do not think these things, artificial intelligence, can do that. So rest assured, artificial intelligence is a tool that we can use if we know how to use it smarter. But it is not something that will be able to replace a human being. Another term that sometimes confuses people is the term algorithms. Let us go back to the fundamental basic definition of algorithms. An algorithm is a process or a set of rules to be followed in calculation to solve a problem by a computer. Everybody who studies computer science understands algorithms, what it means. It also means a series of mathematical instructions created for the machine to follow, a step-by-step instruction for the computer to do. In artificial intelligence system, a programmer creates an algorithms that instruct the computer to look at some data, identify the problems, learn from all the attempts to solve that problem, and eventually know how to solve the problem itself without being taught, without being programmed. And this is called machine learning. So let's look into the next one. What do we mean by machine learning? Artificial intelligence can be taught to carry a number of tasks without being specifically programmed. For example, many of you have used Apple Siri, speech and language recognitions. When I travel to a certain country, I use Siri for some translation or ask for direction, purchase things in the restaurants. And sometimes I use Siri. I think that is very, very interesting software to use. Today, you heard a lot about self-driving car. The vision recognition system in self-driving car is also artificial intelligence software. And if you buy things online from Amazon, you can see that Amazon recommend certain product that maybe you are interested in and make some recommendation. That is also an artificial intelligence based system. All of those algorithms, all of those software can learn or can be taught to do specific tasks based on the amount of data that train them. So the more data, the better. Therefore, data is a key fundamental of artificial intelligence. The machine will not be able to learn anything without certain amount of data. So when we're talking about these amount of data, we're talking about a lot of data for the machine to learn. But data come in various forms. You have text data, you have voice data, you have image data, you have all kind of data. You have structured data, and you also have unstructured data. Therefore, all those data had to be pre-processing, had to be cleaned up, because with the noise, with all the without filtering, many of those data are meaningless. So let's look at one of the key aspects that I do not think that receive a lot of attention is I call pre-processing. And this is something I do want all of you who learning artificial intelligence need to pay more attention. Because most of the data today are incomplete, inconsistent, erroneous, redundancy, and lacking of certain trend or behaviors. Therefore, gathering data, collecting data in many places are usually loosely. People collect all types of data in which result in all kinds of problems that every artificial intelligence project are facing today. They're because of the data coming in, missing something important and missing some trend, missing some values. Therefore, if they are not carefully screened and filtered, the problem can be very misleading. There's a lot of irrelevant data and redundant data. I work on airplane. I've seen, for example, on the wing of the airplane, we got 20,000 sensors. All the sensors collecting data from vibration, from airflow, from all kind of things in it. And because there are so many of them, that's all kind of redundancy. So you really have to do some pre-filtering to make sure that the data that you collect is properly labeled, are properly calculated, and giving you as clean as possible for the machine to learn. During the training phase of any machine, it is very important to have a good data with good label and good content so you can perform the machine learning much better accurate and giving you a high reliability. Data pre-processing is really a data mining technique to transform all these raw data into some understandable format that you can design. So labeling the data is very important. Usually a data pre-processing including cleaning, selection, normalization, transformation, and feature extraction and selection. We will talk about data pre-processing in the next lecture. Another term that many people associate artificial intelligence is called machine learning. Machine learning is one of many algorithms used in AI. Even today, machine learning receives a lot of attention. Machine learning is really a field concerned with designing a program that allows the machine to learn and to make prediction from all these data without certain assistance or being programmed by a programmers. These algorithms are being used in many of the AI systems, such as face recognitions, music recommendation, spam filtering, and fraud detection in finance and banking institute. We'll talk more about machine learning in the next couple of lectures. Another term that many of you probably have heard is the neural network. A neural network is the key to process machine learning, and it is really consists of several layers of algorithms. A machine learning model is a structure in the way that resembles the neuron in the human's brains. Basically, a neural network consists of several layers of neurons, similar to the human brain neuron, that feed data to each other. So one level analyze the data, come up with some predictions, send the result to the next level, they continue to refine the data and learning from this from a previous one. Eventually, they come up with some much better result. The neural network is relatively new, but the modeling, the designing, and the construction of the neural network will make the big difference of a better machine, better AI than the others. Basically, during the training of those neural networks, there are certain weight or certain index, certain factor has been attaching to certain input that will continue to vary from the output from another ones, which is eventually they will come to some fairly good prediction We'll talk more about neural network in the next couple of lectures. There are two things that it is very important for you to know in machine learning. One is called supervised learning. Thus, in machine learning, you have supervised learning and unsupervised learning. Supervised learning is a technique for teaching AI system by training them using a large number of labels. Example, the labeling of these are carried out by the software worker. The programmers identify certain data and then basically label them, allow the machine to learn. Basically, when the machine is learning, you supervise the learning by changing the data, by classify the data for the machine to learn. Basically, one of the techniques that we will talk much more in this introduction class is on supervised learning. Once the machine has been learned, the system can apply this data to the label to the new data and solving the problem. For example, if you train the machine to learn dark in a photo or face characteristic in a photo, then eventually the machine can learn how to identify certain things within a picture. Another technique is called unsupervised data. In contrast to supervised data, unsupervised data using completely different approach, where the algorithm will identify certain pattern in the data, looking for certain similarity that can be used to categorize these data. The algorithm was not set up to pick up a specific type of the data itself, but it looked at certain data and categorize and classify into a group by the similarity. For example, Google News, grouping all the story of a similar topic each day and create the news for the reader. We'll talk more about unsupervised and supervised data in the next coming lecture. Another term that many of you probably have heard when we mention artificial intelligence is called deep learning. Deep learning is a machine learning model where the neural network are expanded into a huge network with multiple layers that are trained to using massive number of data. In this network, the artificial neurons are arranged in an interconnected layer. There's an input to a layer to receive the data from the outside world, and that output layer would dictate how the system will respond to those information. Between those layers are additional hidden layers of neurons that process the data by putting certain weight, certain factor on the information they receive from the preceding layers. And by going to multiple layers, multiple analysis, multiple prediction, they will come up with something much better, more accurate at the end. In a deep learning network, they can solve complex problems because that's a huge number of neurons working together. Basically, this is a massive number of multiple neurons, multiple layers, and each of them feeding the output to the next other. So you come up with much better refined and much better accurate and higher performance. The foundation of every artificial intelligence is called natural language processing. And this is also one of the areas that has not been taught correctly or do not gain a lot of popularity. But I think this is a fundamental, because natural language processing is how do we get the computer to understand, to process, and to manipulate human language. In order to do that, they have to understand a huge number of information from a grammatical rule to syntax to a different colloquialism and accent. Therefore, this is also a very complex algorithms, very complex software that allow the machine to understand the context of the language that we talk. For example, in a speech recognition, a human voice become the audio data, would get converted into a text data, and then be able to process itself. Natural language processing is very important because today there are many systems are using voice. You could, for example, Alexa. Many of you have been using that. That is also an AI using natural language processing. We'll talk more about this topic in the next couple of lectures. For example, have you seen that in artificial intelligence in 2011? Many of you probably have seen the IBM Watson computer make headline when they won the quiz show Jeopardy, beating the best player of the show ever produced. The IBM Watson used natural language processing and big data analytic on a vast repository of data that it processed to answer a human-posed question, often in a fraction of a second. Many of the software in the Watson is created at Carnegie Mellon, and I have been working with Dr. Eric Nybert on this system. And this is one of the things that the first attempt to using AI in natural language processing. So let's look into the way people using AI in their daily life. Basically, AI has been present in many aspects of our life. Have you seen the smart assistants like Siri, Alexa, Cortana? They all use natural language processing to understand the voice command and answer your question. Setting up a reminder, finding the music that you like, adjust a thermostat, control your home security system, etc. If you're using some of the online store like Amazon or Alibaba, they also have artificial intelligence software that track what you've been looking at. They identify what you buy and use this information to tailor the product that they advertise to you and recommend you to buy that. As a customer, it saves you a lot of time searching for what you want. But for the company, for the retailers, it may be able to predict the demand of certain product so they have the right stock at the right time at the right place. That can also improve delivery time, maximize the chances that are able to sell you something that you need. One of the things that are very popular, if you buy a book from Amazon, a certain type of book that you read, you will see that in the next couple of weeks, Amazon continue to recommend a similar book. People who bought this book also buy this book and buy that book. Basically, they recommend something based on their own software, smart software, that know what your preferences are. Many of you also have been using Uber. Uber riding software is also artificial intelligence software that uses machine learning to predict when the car that you book will arrive and how many cars must be in certain location at certain time of the day. So they make sure they have enough car to provide the service to the customer. And many of you who buy new car in the last couple of years, you probably see that the car have all kind of software and basically computer vision to allow you driving the car in a much more safer than the older car, because they can identify and track traffic around your car when you're planning to change lane, or automatically put on the brake if they be able to identify danger ahead. Another system that being used very popular in the last few years is a credit card monitoring system. They're using artificial intelligence software to check for possibility of fraudulent activity. For example, you always shop in the city that you live, and suddenly there's a transaction came from another place, completely outside. You live in West Coast, and there's a lot of transaction happen in the East Coast. That may raising a red flag, an alert. Maybe your credit card has been compromised, or maybe your credit card may be lost, and somebody may using that, and they can create an alert to you. Identify the pattern between the user of certain credit card. The bank can monitor and detect fraudulent activity. Another term that is also associated with artificial intelligence is computer vision. Computer vision is aimed to helping the computer identify and process certain image in the same way like humans do. We learn to distinguish between faces of different people. The computer vision is also teaching machine to recognize differences objects that they can see through the camera. By multiple layers of system, they can look at certain pixels, identify colors, convert them to numerical values, and looking for certain pattern that can identify a group of similar color pixel and texture. It can also help identify different objects. Computer vision has been used significantly in facial recognition, then you will see that today. For example, a few weeks ago, AI has been used to identify a person from the digital image of the video that captured. The system can be trained to select certain facial feature and give an image based on the database. Basically, a person who are the criminal has been part of the group, and the authority can be able to arrest them in a group of 60,000 people based on facial recognitions. And this is a very, very popular case, and it's been used all over the world today. Probably many of you have heard that artificial intelligence has been used in the board games. Not long ago, the IBM Big Blue beating the best chess players in the world. Chess is relatively simple board game as compared with another board game called the Go. And in 2016, the Google DeepMind AlphaGo won over the Grandmaster in Go, which is a very complex board game with a lot of moves. Since then, you can see that there are many, many possibilities that you can use artificial intelligence in several kinds of board games. And by doing that, this software can predict and analyze all the movement and find a way to win the games. Let's look at all the implementation of artificial intelligence, especially in some area that I'm very familiar with. Artificial intelligence in aerospace. Aerospace is very data-intensive industry that not very many people know about it. When we're talking about data-intensive, people think about Google, think about Facebook. Some people think about healthcare. But one area that very few people know is aerospace. And aerospace is basically a data-intensive industry. Let's look at the data in aerospace industry. Facebook accumulates about 800 terabytes of data per day. But let's look at the Boeing 787s that has thousands of sensors that can generate about 1 terabyte of data per hour. So a fleet of 100 787 flying about 16 hours a day can create about 1,600 terabytes per day. And there are about 300 to 400 787 in operation today. And there are 1,000 more are on order. So within a few years, you have a huge number of data in one airplane alone, one type of airplane alone. And these are the things that we have a massive number of data that the company can collect. Data is nothing new in the aerospace industry. Almost every airplane has sensors. We've been collecting data on aircraft for altitude, from speed, from stability during that flight, all for a long time. The aerospace industry has been collecting data so we can improve aircraft performance, raising the safety standard for years. And a fleet of multiple airplane types from the 737, 47, 67, 777, and 87 can generate exabyte and zettabyte in no time. With these amount of huge data, that's a tremendous opportunity to use artificial intelligence to apply in this industry. By collecting these airplane performance data on the aircraft, every aerospace company can using artificial intelligence tool to adjust the way the airplane are flown to deal with potential maintenance issues before they end up grounding the airplane for repair. Airplanes go into repair periodically, but of course things broke down unexpectedly. So by using the maintenance record, collecting the data, using artificial intelligence, we can predict certain part of the airplane may need to be replaced before it breaks down. Therefore, we can prevent the grounding of the airplane. Airlines make money when airplane flying. They don't make money when airplane cannot fly. Therefore, this is tremendous saving and tremendous cost saving for the airline and for the aerospace company. By using artificial intelligence machine, we can also collecting data in the factory, in the maintenance data. We can predict certain parts should be replaced, and then we can correlate those parts with airplane maintenance. So when the time for periodic maintenance, we can predict certain part that's a possibility may be broken down within a certain number of hours. So therefore, we can predict them and replacing them during the normal annual maintenance or monthly maintenance of the airplane to prevent the part from breaking down unexpectedly. Basically, having the right part at the right place at the right time can save tremendous amount of money. Today, every airplane engine have a lot of sensors that collect the data on the engine performance. We can using these artificial intelligence software to fine-tune the thrust and the fuel consumption of the airplane to reducing noise and emission and also improve fuel efficiency. It has been demonstrated in some airlines, and I think that it is possible to use in all of those airplanes flying today to basically to improve on fuel consumption of certain engine. Basically, an aerospace company can also use the artificial intelligence to increase the accuracy, the quality, and the yield of the manufacturing by streamlining the workflow. We can collect the data when the airplane go through the assembly line. We can see where are the issue, where are the problems that frequently occur. We know where the bottleneck is, and we can fix that. Basically, we can make the assembly line rolling out much more smoother if we have all the data collected and analyzed. By measuring all of these data, we can also help the traceability of certain sensors to giving visibility to the daily operation of the fleet. And also by using certain artificial intelligence software, we can improve the quality of the production from the airplane down to the machine level and correlate that with the financial performance of a company. So there are huge amount of data that already existent that we can use. And if we know how to analyze and do that correctly, there's a huge potential to improve the financial performance of a company. And also by having all of those machine learning and data collecting, we can predict certain things within the airplane operation and increase the quality of the airplane, predicting better performance over time. So that's a huge potential to using artificial intelligence in this industry. Also, for the airline industry point of view, AI can also be used to reduce the downtime of the aircraft. That means the airplane can continually flying and service to the passenger and making more revenue to the airline. We can also using AI to improve the operation data, make better accuracy on predicting the arrival and departure time based on the weather conditions, based on certain performance of certain airplane, and then we can optimize the fleet management and cruise assignment for certain airline. Today, many of these activities are still used are very archaic, like a spreadsheet and some experience of the people who schedule them. I think that it can be improved significantly by using AI activity and strong machine learning software. We can also using AI to identify and predict certain passenger flying pattern, destination, booking and cancellation to improve customer satisfaction and increase loyalty to the company. So that's a huge potential that we can using AI in the airline industry. AI and also are being used in the biotech and healthcare significantly in the past few years. AI tool has been used for genomics analysis and gene sequencing in many hospitals and research institutions with extremely accuracy to match any personal therapeutic. Basically, there's a lot of personalized medicine that we can using a large amount of data to identify and matching certain patient with certain treatment. In the past, a certain disease treatment are standardized. Everybody have this kind of disease, follow this procedure. But with AI and with genomic sequences, we can identify a certain amount of patient who can be more successfully with certain treatment than the others. So those are things are being used today, mostly still in the research phase in hospital. But I think in the next few years, it will explode using gene sequences associated with personalized medicines. We could also using AI software for mobile coaching to improve the ability for the doctor to advise a patient and using real-time data. And telemedicine is being very popular today, especially in third world countries. But it's still a direct between a doctor and a patient. But with the help of AI, we can significantly increase the performance and much better outcome if we're using certain tool that can predict certain treatment for a particular patient. AI can also be used to expedite the very expensive and time-consuming drug discovery. Instead of using animals in a lab, we can simulate the reaction of certain cell pattern with certain drug treatment and identify the best pathway for the drug to interact with the body using certain AI algorithms. There's a lot of use of AI. You probably heard about the new one that's coming out a few weeks ago about Google Talk to Books. Many of you like to read books. There's a lot of books, but sometimes you read something, you forget about it. Now you can ask Google to find certain quote, certain thing from certain book by just talking to books. Basically, these are the number of queries you can have by asking, I'm reading that book and I'm looking for certain phrase, certain sentence, certain quotation. Google can be able to find it for you. So these are the new tool that is available. It is also an AI tool. Today, there's a significant critical shortage of people with AI skill. As I mentioned early in this lecture, there's a lot of people talk about AI, but not very many people know how to do that correctly. These are the issue with theory and practice. A key thing is differences between the knowledge and the skill. The knowledge is the theoretical or the understanding of certain subject. The skill are the proficiency by developing through the use transfer of certain knowledge and experience. So basically in this class, you learn the theory and also you develop your skill by following through in a number of weekly quizzes to develop your own skill. And hopefully by the end of this class, you have the ability, which is the quality of being able to do something result from the experience. So in this class, we will have weekly quiz. We have a lot of homework that help you to improve your skill and also develop the ability to do AI in the correct way. Of course, AI technology is still changing fast. You can see that in the last couple of years, I can see tremendous and significant changes. And each new research come up with much better performance. And of course, AI education and training is still evolving. But I strongly believe that our courses and our series of AI will provide you with the knowledge that you need, with the skill that you can develop by doing the homework and the quiz, and then eventually the goal is helping you to build the ability to improve the AI technology and operation in your company, and giving you the skill that you need that you can perform data analytics and AI correctly. So let's look into the framework that I just casually share with you. If you look at the artificial framework today, the lowest level is called the device layer. That means the platform that you learn how to use it. From this platform, when you are familiar, when you have a skill implementing AI in certain platform, then you can move to the next area we call data management. This is dealing with collecting data, pre-processing data, analyze the data, and come up with some prediction. The next layer is called machine learning. These are the algorithm and the software that you can build that allow the machine to learn from the existing data, from the vast amount of data that you have been collecting. And then from these machine learning, you can do some modeling, building some prototype, building some modeling to come up with better prediction. And then from then, you can get to a better prediction and decision support. And then after that, you can plan and optimize. The ultimate is to have the machine autonomy to think of itself, be able to learn and perform the activity by itself. So that you can see that within this framework, that's an orderly thing for you to do. Today, a lot of schools, a lot of places teaching AI using machine learning, which is an algorithms. My question is, if you have all the algorithm, but if you don't have the right data, the performance cannot be optimized. If you focus on software and tool without understand the device layers, there will be things that will not work. So basically, from my point of view, to learn AI, you have to understand the framework and go from one step to the next step in an orderly fashion. So understand the platform, understand the data collection, pre-processing, analytic, then using algorithm like machine learning to create model. From these model, you can adjust it to make decision and eventually optimizing it. So there's an ordering in all of the courses that we're going to offer in the near future. And we're going to go from the first few class, focus on the device layers and the tool that you will use. Eventually, we'll get to data collecting, data pre-processing, and then machine learning. I hope that you understand the ordering that we have in our AI series. The question many people have asked me, why AI and why now? Well, AI field has been exploded recently because we have massive amount of data available, as well as explosion of parallel computing power, where they use of GPU cluster to train machine learning system. Many years ago, AI is not a new field, but it had not been used extensively because the CPU is very, very limited. And today we have so much data. All kind of data, everywhere you go, you can collect certain data. All kind of data exists. But as I mentioned, in order to do it correctly, you really have to collect, to label the data correctly, identify redundancy and noise, pre-processing the data, get certain trend, get certain data in place before you allow the machine to learn. Today, with a powerful GPU, it gives you tremendous power in machine learning model for much faster and performance. All the major companies, the Google, the Microsoft, the Facebook, the Amazon, they all move very quickly into GPU to train the machine learning model. For example, Google Tensor Processing Unit, TPU, can help you to accelerate up your machine learning activity using certain Google TensorFlow, which is a major part of this course. So today, all of the major cloud platform, the Amazon, the Microsoft Azure, the Google Cloud Platform, they provide access to GPU array for training and running machine. So you can still using these cloud service company to run your machine learning and to run your thing without having to build your own server and your own computing system. And so in this class, in the next 20 class or so, we'll focus on the platform, the layer, and the tool that Google allowed you to use a tensor processing unit. In this course, you learn about AI tool, the platform using Google Cloud-based data store that has huge number of data to train certain machine learning model, and then transform the data for analysis and predicting, as well as a Google visualization tool to display the result. So I hope that by following our sequences of courses, you'll be able to develop your own skill in AI and machine learning. Thank you very much. Have a nice day.